So Purim is one of the holidays that's known for its unity, for its achdus. So the question is, how come we read the Megillah on different days? People who live in an unwalled city read on the 14th, like us, and people who live in a walled city, Yerushalayim, they read on the 15th. So we're not all doing everything together. We're not all reading the Megillah together on the same day. If the holiday was all about unity, you would think that we should all be reading together on the same day. So the answer is, if everyone were reading together and doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, that wouldn't be a demonstration of achdus. That wouldn't be a demonstration of unity. That'd be a demonstration of everyone's just doing the same thing. Rather, a true demonstration of unity, of achdus, is where we're able to do different things. Those who live in unwalled cities read the Megillah on the 14th. Those who live in walled cities read on the 15th. And yet, we're still doing what Hashem wants us to do. So even though we're acting differently, we're still doing what Hashem wants us to do. We're all able to tolerate each other and get along with each other, despite doing different things, as long as it's in the name of Hashem. That's the demonstration of true achdus.
There's a medrash on the first pasuk of the Megillah that tells the story of Rabbi Akiva, who was teaching his students and noticed that they were falling asleep. In order to wake them up, he asked them the following question. He said, "In what merit did Esther come to rule over 127 provinces?" He answered that since she was a descendant of Sarah, and Sarah lived 127 years, she merited to rule over 127 provinces. So the Chadushei Arim asks a pretty obvious question, which is, how was this meant to motivate Rabbi Akiva's students and wake them up? The answer is that we see that Esther merited one province for every perfect year that Sarah served Hashem. And in turn, it meant that every day Esther merited a town, and maybe in every hour she merited a district, and so on. And so his point was to convey to his students how every moment that we spend serving Hashem and following his Torah and learning his Torah can have such tremendous reward.
2 days before Purim, renowned Rabbi Jonathan Givant emailed me and said, "Rabbis want devout Torah for Purim from me." From me? Nobody ever asked me in my life. What's wrong with them? But anyway, if somebody asks, I'll try my best. But I didn't know how to tie the Purim and the Under the Sea theme. So what do? Ask for the expert. So I reached out to Rabbi Fakeri from Yeshiva O Israel, and thanks to Rabbi Fakeri, I was able to put the Devar Torah together. So in the Purim, there is not even once the Hashem's name written in the entire book of Megillah. Hashem is hidden in Purim, which is opposite to the open miracle of the Pesach, where Hashem was everywhere, and killing the Egyptians and sending the beast and throwing the hail and everything. So in Purim, it's Hashem is hidden, and it's like under the sea, fish are hidden and hidden from man and protected and in a calm environment. So in the Purim, that though Hashem was orchestrating everything and helping the Jewish people by sending the Esther to Achashverosh. By the way, the Esther's name, Esther, is meaning the hidden. So Hashem was sending Esther to protect the Jewish people and saving us from the hands of Haman. And so now the message is that we live in a world that there is no Navi who can communicate and send us Hashem's message, but Hashem is hidden and protecting us from everything, from to every one of us, if we seek for His help. So may we continue to seek for Hashem's help and for the generations to come and celebrate Purim entirely with happiness. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hi everyone, and Freilichem Purim. Hope you are enjoying the festivities under the sea. I am sure the theme under the sea makes sense for a Seudah. but for me, this is a little tricky. I've got to connect my Devar Torah to Under the Sea, and all I can think of is a Jamaican crab. And as we all know, the Torah does not make the bottom of the sea out to be such a great place. If you ever get down there, you will be in the company of the generation of the flood and Paro's army. Those guys are jerks. They don't make the best dinner guests. That's because they're dead. Besides, the only way we are getting to the bottom of the sea is through the splitting of the sea or in the belly of a fish. And those stories belong to the wrong holidays. Fortunately, Purim allows for a little whimsy. And when I think of Under the Sea, I think of music. Because under the sea, the bass plays the brass, the chub plays the tub, and the fluke is the Duke of Soho. And it just so happens that Purim is all about the music. What better way to increase happiness in the month of Adar than by dancing and singing in the schools, in the shuls, and even in the streets? Even our laning of Megillas Esther takes an upbeat tone. Anyone that has heard the Megillah read will notice the higher pitched notes, an upbeat spirit that just carries you through. That is with the exception of 7 psukim. In those 7 lines, we move from the upbeat, higher pitched tune to a lower pitched, darker tone. In effect, we move below the C note from the treble to the bass, and it all starts with one Seudah. The 70 years of our first exile were coming to an end, and we could have gone back to Israel on a high note, but it was too much trouble. We submitted to our baser natures and went to a party we had no business being at. Here we were, thinking we were going to some company barbecue, when Achashverosh trots out the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash and uses them as serving dishes. The Baal Koreh tells us this by having the notes go down deep, borrowing from the cantillation of Echa. This wasn't a party for our benefit. Achashverosh was in effect telling us that the 70 years were up, and we were never getting out. We were in over our heads, and the water was rising. These deeper tones, moments of anguish and mourning, continue to pop up throughout the narrative, sometimes hinting at the past exile, and sometimes highlighting the suffering that Haman and Achashverosh put us through with their decree of extermination. And then something happens. Esther reclaims the tune. I'm going to read these lines in English to make it easy, but you'll get the idea. Imagine the words sung in the tune of a dirge. Then Esther, the queen, answered and said, If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had only been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I would have held my peace, for the enemy is not worth enough that the king should be disturbed. Because how can I endure to see the evil that shall fall upon my people? How can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Using the tune of Echa, she pleads her case before King Achashverosh, and more importantly, before the King of Kings himself, and brings condemnation and death down upon Haman. She takes those bass notes, those notes of sadness, and turns them into supplication, which then leads to salvation. Esther, with her characteristic savvy, coupled with humility, finds a way to bring happiness out of despair. And now the tune is changed. We close the book of Megillas Esther with a joyous tune, Shoshanas Yaakov. My favorite tune gives Haman the bass and gives Mordechai and Esther the joyous highs. So remember, when you are under the water, when you are desperate and scared, when you can no longer breathe, remember that the Creator is hovering over the face of those waters, and he can bring dry land. Cry out to him in your deepest depths, and he will answer from on high. Those notes, the highs mixed with the lows, will form a song, and it will sound like salvation. Baruch Mordechai, Baruch Mordechai, Baruch Mordechai, HaYehudi, Brucha Esther, Brucha Esther, Brucha Esther, Badi. Freilich Purim.
Happy Purim and Chag Sameach. To me, Megillat Esther is an amazing tale because of the many things in it that are mysterious or hidden, represented by Esther's name, which comes from the word meaning to conceal. As the story moves along, Mordechai gives Esther instruction and tells her what will happen if she doesn't follow them. Soon after, Esther decided to take the risk and leadership upon herself by commanding Mordecai the following: "Go gather all the Jews and fast for me." It is at this point that we see Esther become the hero of the story and saving Am Israel by marrying King Ahasuerus. The mystery continues when Esther invites King Ahasuerus and Haman to a private mishteh, a feast that she prepared. In a hidden manner, Esther is inviting Hashem to feast by saying, "God will come with Haman today. Yavo HaMelech veHaman hayom." HaMelech referring to Hashem, and the fact that if you take the first letter of each Hebrew word from the phrase Yavo HaMelech veHaman hayom, then you have the name of Hashem spelled Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. I think that hidden in her mind, Esther wanted to accomplish many things, two of which I will mention. One, Esther being from the tribe of Benjamin and an offspring of Saul, King Saul, wanted to repair the mess caused by Saul when he was commanded by God to kill Amalek and erase his memory forever. However, Saul failed to do it. Two, Esther worked hard to get God's name out into the open and succeeded to do it in a hidden way. As we know, God's name does not appear in Megillat Esther. We see and feel the miracle of God's hand throughout Megillat Esther, openly and hidden, to save Am Israel. And as it is written in the Megillah, the fear of Jews had fallen upon the nation of the world.
It is very interesting to note the similarities between the story of Yosef and the book of Esther. For instance, Yosef is made a second in command to Paro. Mordecai is appointed second in command to Ahasuerus. Paro gives his signet ring to Yosef. Ahasuerus gives his ring to Haman and then to Mordecai. Paro makes a feast for the wine steward and the baker, and also Ahasuerus makes a feast. Yosef finds favor in Paro's eyes and also in the eyes of Potiphar, and Esther finds favor with Ahasuerus, with his servants and the people. Yosef does a favor for the wine steward. The wine steward forgets about Yosef and then remembers him at a later time. Mordecai does a favor by saving the king's life. That's forgotten about, and then it's again remembered again at a later time. The king's sleep is disturbed. Paro has a dream, doesn't know how to interpret it. Ahasuerus can't sleep, and he asks to be, and that's how Mordecai is remembered. Finally, Yosef is unknown to everybody. It's only when he reveals himself to the brothers that they know, that we all know who he is. Similarly with Esther, throughout the entire story, Haman, Ahasuerus, everybody is totally clueless as far as who Esther is, but at the end she is revealed. So we see all these things happen for a reason, that things happen in the world, we don't always understand them, we don't always know, we don't always think we know what's going on. But basically Hashem's hand is in everything. He's what guides everything. He's what knows what all the answers are and should be. And we just have to trust in Hashem to know that things are going to work out in the end, that even though things are not revealed to us right away, Hashem has a way of doing things, and he has everything of our best intentions in mind. With that in mind, have a wonderful Purim.